Well, the day after a resounding defeat on Election Day for Donald Trump started terribly because Magistrate Judge Fitzpatrick scolded the Department of Justice in the Comey indictment case at a hearing that had been scheduled for over a month about the failure and the foot dragging of the Department of Justice to turn over key documents to the defense, which they're required to do under a body of law we call Brady material. And the judge scolded the Department of Justice and said, your approach of indicting first and investigating later ends today. And he ordered documents, all the documents, including the grand jury transcripts, be turned over by tomorrow. He's the second judge to have ordered that grand jury material be turned over by tomorrow. We'll talk about Judge Curry as well on this Wednesday after Election Day in America edition of Legal AF. I'm Michael Popok. Welcome aboard. What a phenomenal blue wave yesterday with all sorts of flipping of what had been Trump seats and turning them blue. Two new governors, two new women governors of Virginia and New Jersey from the moderate wing of the Democratic Party. A progressive socialist Democrat wins the mayoralty in New York. As we and the moderates, the Democrats kind of work out our issues with the electorate, but all against Donald Trump. And today, Judge Fitzpatrick had in front of him the lawyers for James Comey, just to be confusing, Pat Fitzgerald. It was the Fitz day. Pat Fitzgerald representing James Comey, Magistrate Judge William Fitzpatrick. I'm going to talk to you about what a magistrate judge does. And then, of course, we've got the lawyers not named Lindsey Halligan representing the Eastern District of Virginia. She brought in some other people that I assume know what they're doing. I'll tell you who knows what they're doing. It's going to be Judge Fitzpatrick, Magistrate Judge Fitzpatrick. Now, in federal court, you have the Article 3 judge, which is the presiding judge with lifetime appointment. That is Judge Nachmanoff in this case. And then you have the magistrate judges that do the yeoman's work in the federal system for criminal. They handle, and civil, they handle documents and disputes over documents and information, people foot dragging and ordering that to stop. They handle motion practice as assigned by the federal judge, their boss. They handle arraignments, usually, unless it's at the higher profile, which I think Nachmanoff did it for Comey. They handle subpoenas and search warrants and things like that. And they are to be respected, just like their Article 3 judge boss. So Judge Fitzpatrick, who's been on the bench for a while, said to the Trump Department of Justice, they were there presumably on a motion by the Department of Justice. You wouldn't know it by how hot Judge Fitzpatrick was against them on a filter protocol, which is the government saying, we have all these documents, but we have to put protections around them because, well, James Comey and, he might leak them and his lawyer may have been exposed to top secret information. And the judge was having none of it. The judge ordered that thousands and thousands of pages of documents, including the results of search warrants that the government had executed on Daniel Richman, who was part of the key to the perjury charge here against Comey. He had been a special employee of the FBI. He had been a friend of James Comey, a lawyer for James Comey, and he admitted, as has James Comey, that he did leak on purpose certain memos to the New York Times after Comey was fired in order to get a special prosecutor appointed. But the leak that's in the basis of the perjury has to do with the Washington Post and something that Andy McCabe, the number 2 in the FBI, said about the Clinton investigation. Totally different. But apparently they obtained search warrants against Richmond back in 2019 and 2020 during the Biden administration, including that, and have not turned that documents over. In fact, Comey's lawyers said in the courtroom today, we can't respond. We don't have the docs. The judge says that ends today. And he ordered not only that, they also argued for the grand jury materials because they've already filed their motion about getting the grand jury materials, having them sent to the defense, arguing that it was quite unusual and irregular how Lindsey Halligan, only hours after she became a federal prosecutor, what she did in that grand jury room. What did she tell them? What did she leave out? What ethical rules did she violate? What Sixth Amendment right to fair trial did she violate in favor of James Comey? What attorney-client privilege of James Comey did she violate by soliciting or eliciting testimony from the FBI agent that testified that would have talked about what Daniel Richman, James Comey's lawyer, told him? Did she hold them hostage? Why did they stay until 7 o'clock at night? Why were there 2 indictments? One with 2 counts and one with 3 counts. Why were they both signed by Lindsey Halligan? This is all coming out now because there's 2 different, and that's been ordered to be turned over by 5 o'clock tomorrow. So it should be easy for the Department of Justice because there's another competing order or parallel order from Judge Curry, who's responsible for handling the motion to disqualify Lindsey Halligan issue for both James Comey and Letitia James. She's given them one more chance to turn over everything about the grand jury proceeding to her as well. And that's what happens. You get parallel orders that are not in conflict from 2 different judges on 2 different issues. Judge Fitzpatrick is worried about and handling getting all of the documents that the defense needs to defend themselves. That's his concern. Judge Curry is trying to get what she needs to review in camera in her chambers by herself for now, maybe on the public docket one day, about the motion in front of her to dismiss Lindsey Halligan as illegally appointed by both of her indicted criminal defendants, Letitia James, New York Attorney General, and James Comey, former FBI director. And so she's asked for it too. So by tomorrow, there's going to be a dump of the grand jury materials by the Department of Justice, or they're going to fall into the mouth of a Magistrate Judge Fitzpatrick or move closer to contempt with Judge Curry. But I wanted you to also use this as a teachable moment, right? We like to joke that Legal AF is like a TED Talk meets a law school class about what magistrate judges are, the power that they have. I'll give you an example. I had a case a few years ago, very complicated case, federal case. I filed motions with the federal judge, and she ruled on those motions over the course of a couple of years. But my main judge that I dealt with on a regular basis, never seeing the Article 3 judge, was the magistrate judge. For me, I mean, you can't make a distinction in your own mind. They have almost all the powers. Now, when they make a decision, you can appeal that decision if you don't like it to the federal judge. You can take what's called an objection or exception to the magistrate judge's ruling. If certain things have been referred to them to handle, you have some limits as to what you can object to. But I've taken objections if I haven't liked the magistrate judge's ruling or I thought it was wrong, up to the Article 3 judge. And depending upon the relationship between the main judge, Nachmanoff, and Judge Fitzpatrick, some judges, frankly, really respect their magistrates under them, and some don't. So, you have to know your audience when you decide to object to the magistrate judge. But that's what's going to happen here. Department of Justice caught flat-footed again today is the headline, scolded by the magistrate judge. It's not the first time the Trump Department of Justice has been yelled at by a magistrate judge about indicting and abusing its power. A very similar thing happened when Alina Habba went after Mayor Baraka in Jersey City, tried to arrest him and then dismiss the indictment, tried to go into court to get the dismissal. Magistrate judge there said, do better, Alina Habba and the Department of Justice, with your prosecutorial powers, your awesome powers. And here you hear Judge Fitzpatrick saying the exact same thing. I'll continue to follow this fast-moving story. There'll be an update tomorrow because they're either going to comply with these orders or the Trump administration is going to be defiant. And I'll cover it for you. While you're here, hit the subscribe button. We just crossed, we're at 910,000 subscribers. We're rolling that odometer. Our goal is 1 million in the next 6 or 7 weeks. We'll do it with your help and with your support. And slide over to Legal AF Substack, where we post legal filings and our analysis and videos, commercial-free versions of the podcast, all on Legal AF Substack. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touches Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.